The planet Xanthus was silent, bathed in the dull copper light of a distant star. Red dust coated everything, including the massive silent ruin that the alien research team had finally uncovered. For years, this human outpost had been nothing but a vague data point, a curiosity left by a species that vanished millennia ago. Now, the alien expedition was here. Dr. Krell, the chief xenoscientist, descended into the pit carved by their digging machines. Krell was krill, a species known for their sharp minds and commitment to elegant efficiency. He expected to find clever, complex failure points. What he found instead made his 3 eyes narrow with professional disgust. "Look at this, team." Krell's voice was a tight, controlled hiss through the comms unit. "They called this a door." The blast door was enormous. It was not built with layers of smart composites or dynamic energy fields. It was just pure, dense metal, forged into a simple slab that was 30 meters high and easily 10 meters thick. It looked less like an engineered component and more like a mountain that had been machined. The surface was weathered, but totally undamaged. Krell brought his optical scanner close to the metal. The analysis came back instantly. An iron-titanium alloy mixed with trace elements that made it nearly impossible to fracture through heat or conventional force. It was crude. It was wasteful. It was stupidly, needlessly durable. Krell logged his first official observation. Humanity. Species 307b. Their signature is an obsessive focus on redundancy and overbuilding. They never optimized, they simply ensured failure was structurally impossible. He felt a deep sense of irritation. Why waste so much material? Why not design a door that was easy to replace, easy to maintain, and easy to fail when needed? It was utterly illogical. Standing slightly back from the main group was Dr. Alex Vance, the expedition's only human specialist. He was employed to read the old human symbols and data formats. Alex, unlike the aliens, felt no scorn, only a deep, growing unease. The immense scale of the ruins made the hairs on the back of his neck prickle. Commander Zyle, the leader of the military escort, stomped his heavy boots nearby. "Dr. Krell, my sensors cannot penetrate this wall. We are wasting power trying to scan what is clearly just a solid block of metal. This entire ruin is proving to be a massive waste of resources." "Patience, Commander Zyle. We are cataloging a historical curiosity," Krell said, though he shared Zyle's frustration. He pointed his scanner at the walls surrounding the door. "Observe these power conduits. They run in thick, overlapping braids, 3 independent lines, any of which could have powered this entire outpost for a century, all running side by side." "Redundant," a Krill technician mumbled. "Worse than redundant. It is proof of a deeply flawed, paranoid engineering philosophy," Krill corrected. He led the team through the first successful breach, a small access hatch they had managed to slice open after hours of work. Inside, the outpost was just as massive and simple. The corridors were wide and straight, not built for quick travel, but for moving gigantic pieces of equipment. The air was dead and cool. Alex walked carefully, examining the floor. He ignored the massive conduits and focused on something small. Running beneath the main deck plating, tucked almost out of sight, was a network of tiny, hair-thin lines. They looked like simple plumbing or maybe even residual waste pipes. They didn't connect to the main power nexus at all. "Dr. Krell," Alex called out softly. Krell stopped, annoyed by the interruption. "What is it, human?" "These thin pipes, running along the sublevel. Alex pointed with his gloved hand. "They don't match any known waste management schematic for a standard human outpost. They run too deep, and the material is different." Krell didn't even look down. "Nonsense, Vance. This entire place is over-engineered scrap. That is probably a residual chemical runoff system, sealed millennia ago. It is insignificant. We are focused on the core chamber, the object of power, not the ancient plumbing." He gave Alex a dismissive hand flick. The human simply nodded, but his unease grew stronger. The smaller something was in this ruin, the more out of place it felt. Why build a hair-thin system out of such incredibly durable material only to bury it so deep? The team soon reached the central nexus room. It was a vast, hemispherical chamber, totally empty except for a circular platform in the center that held the main power core. The core was dark and silent, a simple black cylinder that promised immense power. "Commander Zyle, secure the perimeter. This is where the interesting power signatures should be. We will retrieve a physical sample," Krell stated, his voice now buzzing with anticipation. Alex stood by the entrance, taking a final look back at the simple dark metal corridors. The walls were just walls, the floor was just floor. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing inside a massive, sleeping beast. The simple construction wasn't a flaw. It was a disguise. The simplicity was the point. He looked once more at where the hair-thin conduits disappeared into the wall, a slight tremor running through his boot sole. The silence in the chamber felt heavy, pressured. Dr. Krell raised the high-energy plasma cutter. They were ready to finally take a sample of the core. Alex took a quiet step back, knowing this was a very bad idea.
Dr. Krell did not believe in subtlety when dealing with dead technology. He believed in force and swift extraction. He held the high-energy plasma cutter steady, aiming its nozzle directly at the dark power core in the center of the vast, silent room. "Prepare the containment field. We will excise a 30-gram sample," Krell commanded. Alex Vance, standing near the entrance, felt his hands clench. "Dr. Krell, with all respect, the documentation suggests this core interfaces best with low-frequency induction, not heat. You could risk damaging the data," he said, his voice tight. Krell let out a sound of dismissive irritation. "Data? This artifact is millennia old, Vance. Any data is decayed. We are seeking material structure. This core is simple and sealed. The plasma cutter is the fastest method. Now, silence." Krell ignited the cutter. The room filled with the sharp, burning whine of superheated gas. A concentrated stream of blue-white energy shot out and hit the black cylindrical core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, instead of the core being cleanly sliced, the entire cylinder seemed to absorb the energy. The blue-white light of the plasma cutter vanished, swallowed by the darkness. A low, deep thrum vibrated through the floor. It was a sound that felt more than it was heard, shaking the fillings in Alex's teeth. The Krill technician beside Krill immediately shouted, "Energy consumption spiking. The core is drawing power from the cutter. We are experiencing a full drain." Krell quickly shut down the plasma stream. He stared at the core. There was no visible damage, but the surface of the cylinder now pulsed with a dull, steady amber glow. It was not a bright or urgent light. It looked tired, like a light that had been asleep for a long, long time and was only just now opening its eyes. "Status report! What is the meaning of this?" Krell demanded. "It is not an alarm, Doctor," the technician reported, confused. "It is a status indicator, but it has just changed from off to standby. Impossible. There is no external power source connecting it." Alex knew exactly where the power was coming from. He looked down at the floor where the hair-thin conduits disappeared into the metal. The low, shaking hum was now clearly radiating up from those pipes. The plumbing was waking up. Commander Zyle, who had been guarding the perimeter near the entrance, rushed forward, his heavy steps loud on the metal floor. "This vibration is interfering with our comms and our tracking gear," Zyle stated, his voice worried. "It is hostile interference. I will apply a broad-spectrum dampening field to shut down the source." "Wait!" Alex shouted, moving forward quickly. "You don't know what you are dampening. This vibration is the system drawing its internal power. If you try to stop that, it might think it's under attack." Krell overruled him instantly. "Ridiculous, Vance. A mere vibration cannot be an attack. Commander, proceed. Neutralize the interference now." Zyle activated his dampening unit. A wave of focused, counter-frequency energy shot across the room toward the core. The result was immediate and violent. The amber light on the core flared to a blinding, dangerous orange. The hum in the floor did not stop. Instead, it became a loud, screaming roar that echoed painfully inside their helmets. The air in the chamber felt thick and charged, like standing in the middle of a massive electrical storm. The dampening field hit the core and instantly dissolved. The core, in return, didn't just resist the field, it pulled the entire energy load of Zyle's unit into itself. The military equipment went dark, smoking faintly. Then the chamber filled with a sound they were not ready for. It was a voice. Ancient, hollow, but clear. It spoke in simple, automated human language. "Warning. Integrity breach detected. External power manipulation registered. Threat assessment .001. Resilience protocol initializing." The voice repeated the message again. A calm, emotionless loop. "Resilience protocol initializing. Threat assessment .001. Dr. Krell's mask display flashed red as his environmental system suddenly struggled to manage the heat spike in the room. His earlier arrogance evaporated completely, replaced with pure scientific terror. "What is this? What is a 0.01 threat?" "It's the lowest possible threat level," Alex whispered, staring at the floor where the thin lines glowed with internal heat. "It's not treating us as a threat. It's treating us like structural damage, like a minor leak it needs to seal." Commander Zyle, ignoring all protocol, ordered his external military team to fire on the main entrance conduits to force a power failure. "Cut the lines! Shut this thing down now!" As the first heavy weapons fire echoed outside, the automated voice in the chamber changed its loop. Threat assessment .5. Physical containment procedures initiated. The massive, metal blast door that Krell had earlier mocked slammed shut, with a final, deafening boom, sealing the entire research team inside the heart of the ancient human ruin. They were trapped. The massive, final boom of the blast door fading away was replaced by an even worse sound. A loud, mechanical groaning from deep within the walls. The amber light on the core turned a solid, angry red. The reg assessment 0.7, containment field deployment, the automated voice announced, calm and clear, right before a sound like air escaping a massive valve filled the room. Dr. Krell was trembling. He activated his helmet radio. "External team, report! Report! We are trapped! Breach the door!" Only static replied. The power surge from the core had not just deactivated Commander Zyle's unit, it had scrambled all local Krill radio frequencies. "It's a simple noise burst, Doctor. It's not letting your advanced comms work," Alex Vance said, trying to stay calm. His simple, military-grade human equipment was still functional, but the signal was weak. He didn't bother trying to call for help. He knew their ship, the Aethel, was too far and too proud to listen to a human technician's emergency signal. "Containment field deployment? What does that mean?" Commander Zyle roared, lifting his broken rifle. The floor answered him. A series of fine seams in the metal deck plating, the same seams that the hair-thin conduits ran under, began to hiss. Slowly, sluggishly, a thick, clear, gelatinous polymer started pushing its way up through the seams. It pooled on the floor, spreading outward like slow water. "It's sealing the leak," Alex realized, pointing at the gel. "The conduits are pumping a self-sealing compound. We are the leak. It's treating us like dust or water that doesn't belong." Dr. Krell stumbled back, stepping into the clear, sticky goo. It felt cold and strange through his boots. "This is primitive. Chemical containment? This is what they call advanced defense?" He tried to slash at the growing pool with a small, sharp instrument, but the polymer did not break. It simply folded back on itself, like thick honey, and continued to spread. "It's designed to be simple and unstoppable," Alex said, backing toward the main console. "This whole facility is like an escape pod. It wasn't built to be subtle or smart. It was built to last and seal itself until the universe ended." The polymer was now rising rapidly, climbing the military team's boots. They tried to blast it with their remaining handheld weapons. The blasts only caused the goo to heat up and spread faster, as if consuming the energy to fuel its own growth. "Do not fire on it," Alex yelled. "You're feeding it. It's a redundancy system. If one part fails, the next, even simpler part takes over." He rushed to the main console. The screen was a mess of flashing human script. He slammed his hand against the data port and plugged in his small, basic, human diagnostic pad. He needed to speak to the facility in its own language. "The problem is the simplicity," Alex muttered to himself, frantically translating the ancient text on his screen. "Humanity built systems that could be fixed with a wrench and a flashlight, even if they were galaxy-spanning. They never trusted the complex software to handle true crisis." The automated voice confirmed his fear. "Threat assessment 1.0. Full environmental seal initiated." The polymer had now reached their knees. Commander Zyle and his two remaining security officers were struggling, their heavy armor making them slow and clumsy in the thick material. They were stuck. "Vance, find an exit, or open the door!" Krell screamed, now standing waist-deep in the cold, clear gel. His segmented legs were encased, and he fought the polymer in a silent, useless panic. Alex ignored him. The console screen finally flashed a single, crucial message. "System access available via Emergency Override Terminal 4 Beta. Manual input required." "Terminal 4 Beta," Alex gasped, looking around the massive, simple room. There was no glowing screen, no complex interface. He remembered the schematics they had laughed at earlier. He spotted it then, a small, dark panel set low into the wall, totally separate from the high-tech power core. It was unmarked, simple, and secured by 3 massive mechanical bolts, the kind you could only turn with a physical, human hand. The polymer was now up to his chest. The chilling, thick substance pulled at his limbs, slowing him down. He had to swim through the last few meters to the panel. The air above the goo was getting warm and humid. He reached the panel. He smashed his hand against the rusty release latch. The panel cover fell away, revealing not a keyboard or a screen, but a series of 3 simple levers and a slot for a physical key. This was the ultimate fail-safe, a mechanism so simple It could only be activated by a creature with hands, eyes, and basic reasoning, a purely human device. Alex frantically reached into his belt pouch and pulled out the single, universal access tool he had brought with him. He jammed the tool into the lock slot and twisted. As the thick polymer reached his neck, the ancient system's voice changed one last time. Threat assessment, 0. Human intervention, detected. System status, awaiting command.
The simple mechanism felt solid and right under Alex Vance's fingers. The universal access tool was nothing more than a customized piece of steel, but in this ancient human facility, it was the key to everything. With the thick, clear polymer pulling at his neck, Alex ignored the 3 simple levers for a moment. He had to make the right choice. He could not simply escape. He had to prove that the human way of building things, simple, strong, and enduring, was better than the alien way of complex, fragile efficiency. The automated voice was waiting, its tone perfectly neutral. Threat assessment, 0. Human intervention detected. System status awaiting command. Dr. Krell, half submerged in the goo, his 3 eyes wide with terror, could only babble, "Vance, drain it! Open the door! Save us!" Alex focused on the levers. The first one was marked with a simple droplet symbol. The second, an open square. The third, a lightning bolt pointing up. He pushed the first lever down firmly. The change was instantaneous. The deep, painful hum reversed itself. The clear, sticky polymer stopped rising and began to flow back down into the floor seams with shocking speed. It drained away from Krell, Commander Zyle, and the struggling security officers, leaving them coated in a thin, cold residue. The whole room shuddered, not from pain, but from the sudden, massive power shift. Alex then pushed the second lever, the open square. A small mechanical click sounded, and the heavy, 30-meter-thick blast door at the entrance retracted a fraction of an inch, enough to break the seal and equalize the pressure. They were no longer completely trapped, but escape was not the next step. He placed his hand on the third lever, the lightning bolt. This was the external activation command. This would tell the core to stop acting like a sealed survival pod and start acting like the full human outpost it was meant to be. "Dr. Krell," Alex said, looking at the soaked xenoscientist, "you called this place crude and over-engineered. You were wrong. It's not crude, it's redundant. It's not over-engineered, it's designed to be dormant for 10,000 years and then wake up perfectly." He shoved the third lever up. This time, the core did not merely pulse. The black cylinder erupted with a blinding, pure white light that flooded the chamber, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. The automated voice spoke one last time, no longer calm, but with a note of cold, final urgency. "Power transfer initiating. Threat level high. Planetary defense grid engaging." High above the copper-red surface of Xantus, the Krill research vessel Ethel hung in orbit, surrounded by 2 small armed military cruisers. Captain Mira, the ship's commander, watched her sensor screen with concern. "The ground team went silent. They've been sealed in for 5 minutes. Prepare a heavy drilling assault team to recover Dr. Krell." Just as she spoke, every alarm on the bridge went off at once. The entire port side of the planet's sensor feed lit up with a massive energy signature. "Captain, energy spike, coming from the archaeological zone. It's drawing power we can't even measure," the navigation officer cried out. Then the ground moved. It wasn't an earthquake or a volcano. Kilometers below them, the red desert sand, over an area of 5 kilometers wide, rose smoothly into the sky. It looked like a gigantic, perfect circle of earth being lifted by an invisible hand. As the dirt fell away, what was revealed beneath was not an outpost. It was a colossal, single machine. The entire structure, perfectly maintained and clean, rose higher than any mountain on the planet. It was a dense, interlocking weave of black and gold metal, far beyond anything the Krill had ever seen or imagined. It was the entire ancient outpost, and it was alive. "It was never a ruin, Captain," Mira whispered in shock. "It was a single, gigantic power conduit, buried for camouflage." The Krill military cruisers immediately began firing. Thick green plasma beams rained down towards the gigantic structure. The structure did not flinch. As the plasma beams entered the upper atmosphere, a faint, almost invisible energy shield snapped into existence around the structure. The green beams simply splashed against it, turning into harmless bursts of light. Then the structure began to respond. From dozens of concealed ports on its surface, small dart-like defense drones shot out into space. They were tiny, simple, and incredibly fast. They carried no heavy weapons, only thin, white-hot energy lances. "Captain, they're engaging the cruisers. It's attacking us. Open fire with everything we have." The two military cruisers turned their heavy guns on the structure, but the simple, fast drones were already there. The human drones did not try to destroy the cruisers, they aimed only for the engine nacelles and the main weapon couplings. The fight was less a battle, and more the systematic disarming of an annoying pest. Within seconds, one cruiser was tumbling, its engines disabled by a single, perfectly placed hit. The whole scene proved the human philosophy. Simplicity is the ultimate durability. The ruins weren't crude. They were simply designed to survive the death of their civilization and wake up to protect their secrets with overwhelming, focused power.
The fight was short, brutal, and utterly one-sided. High above Xantus, the Krill fleet Captain Mira watched her remaining cruiser pull back to the edge of the system. The human defense drones, tiny, simple, and deadly, had ceased fire the moment the Krill ship stopped running toward the planet. "Report," Captain Mira commanded, her voice strained. "The defense structure is stable, Captain," the navigation officer replied, his hands shaking slightly on the console. "It is not pursuing us. It appears to be cleaning itself. Small automated units are smoothing out the desert surface around the site." The gigantic black and gold machine that had risen from the sand now sat in silent, magnificent strength. It did not threaten them. It simply existed, radiating an impossible sense of permanence. Down in the excavation pit, the scene was one of deep humiliation. Commander Zill and his security team were scraping the cold, clear polymer from their expensive high-tech armor. Their weapons were useless and broken. Dr. Krell was leaning against a wall, his breathing ragged. His scientific arrogance was shattered. He was soaked and silent, watching Alex Vance. Alex, having saved them all, now stood calmly by the exposed manual terminal, his simple diagnostic pad connected to the core. He had drained the goo and partially opened the main blast door. He was the only functional communication link to the system now. "Alex," Krell finally whispered, his voice stripped of his usual hiss of scorn. "What does the core say now?" "It's running a diagnostic loop," Alex replied, checking his pad. "It says the environment is stable, the threat level is 0, and it is initiating long-term maintenance protocols. It is now waiting for a single command: deactivate or hold current status." "Deactivate it!" Commander Zill roared. But Alex shook his head. "I can't. It requires a 3-factor code generated by a biological scan, and only after the planetary defense grid confirms no external threats within 1,000 kilometers radius. It will not shut down simply because we ask politely." Krell slowly pushed himself upright, looking around the massive, simple room. The heavy blast door, the thick conduits, the crude-looking emergency levers. He finally understood. "It was never designed to be defeated, was it, Vance?" Krell asked. "No, Doctor," Alex confirmed.
It was designed to survive everything else. When humanity collapsed, they didn't rely on complex digital keys or layered security software that could be hacked or corrupted over 10,000 years. They sealed their most important secrets in a box with a simple, massive lock and buried it. The lock was the facility itself. It was built with materials that literally outlasted the species. Krell slowly walked over to his broken plasma cutter. He picked up the datapad containing his initial log entries. He remembered writing that humanity was defined by its obsession with failsafes and redundancy and its crude, unnecessary durability. He laughed, a dry, bitter sound. He looked at the gargantuan structure outside the partially open door, the true scale of the outpost now rising into the sky. Their technology wasn't elegant because it didn't need to be. It was designed to be easily maintained by anyone and utterly impossible to destroy by everyone. We mocked the simple design because we could not imagine technology being built to survive its own makers. He activated his recording device and began his final log entry, his voice now deep with respect. Final log, Dr. Krell, lead xenoscientist. We have fundamentally miscalculated the nature of species 307b, humanity. Their ancient ruins are not relics of a failed species. They are monuments to an unparalleled focus on persistence. They did not build for efficiency. They built for forever. The systems we called crude are in fact the most durable and reliable defense grid we have ever encountered. They designed their machines to be simple enough to function without maintenance for epochs, yet powerful enough to repel any threat when awakened. The true lesson of humanity is this: what survives is not what is most clever, but what is most unyielding. Krell looked at Alex Vance, the young man who knew how to use the ancient simplicity. I believe we need to begin negotiations with the outpost, Vance. I believe you are the only person who can speak to a technology this old. Alex looked at the vast machine that used a simple piece of steel and 3 levers as its core defense. He nodded. Humanity's ancient secret was out. They had not built monuments to their power, but to their ability to endure. The entire Krill galaxy had just learned that the longest-lasting force in the universe was not the most complex, but the most stubbornly simple.